after, in the stone circles, I came back to Bolivia, to Lake Titicaca with a few friends, and I started to feel the presence of Thoth, of Yahud. And I had no idea why, because it was not Egypt, but his presence there was really heavy. And there was a message of meeting him in a place called Aramumuru, which is a door in the rock in Peru, just in the border with Bolivia. And so we went there. And when we just arrived there, suddenly I became him. And it was weird for my friends because they never saw me that way. And suddenly I just turned back to them and my face was different. And they said, what happened? And I said, I did like this, and two birds, ibis, the Thoth birds, flew from me from behind. And it was like, what is happening? Something weird was happening. He guided us to a whole path around the mountain to prove who would be accompanying me to this process. So he was testing us all the time. After all that, he says to me, there is a mistake in your calculations regarding where you have to go and what you have to do. He told me there are two ways to understand what we are doing. One is geologically and the other one is magnetically. So you have a geological North Pole and a magnetical North Pole. Thoth told me you have to follow the geological one, but you will activate that in the moment when the North Pole changes. And said, in a few years, the North Pole will change its position from the west to the east. So when that happens, it will be 2 years, 2020 and 2021, that the North Pole will be aligned with the physical North Pole. So in that moment, both networks will be aligned. And that's the moment to do a reconnection for what's going to come next. So that's the moment when everything should be done. And you have until March 2022. And so it was like, okay. And after that, we cannot do it. And from there, they said, okay, the next step is to prepare yourself for that trip. So in 2018, I started to coordinate this huge trip around the world, getting ready for 2020. But everything was wrong. Like nothing happened. And it was like, no. So I had to wait, I had to expect, and I had no idea what. And they said the grid is not complete because you need the people that connects the grid. And that was the moment when I started to come here to Gaia and film the first season of initiation. My name is Matías De Stefano, and my purpose is to remember. When I came and I started to film this, I had no clue what it was about because I thought that I was just come and film some videos and that's it, and I would leave. But suddenly that made that a lot of people from all over the world, mostly in English, started to follow what I was doing, and the amount of people working with this got bigger, and people started to helping me to keep going, to do it. I had no clue that it was a part of that spread of the network of the people that we needed to accomplish the mission. In that time when I was filming and organized everything for the trip, my mom said, this year, 2018, it's gonna be 7 years from our first 11/11 gathering, 2011. And we start thinking about it and taking all the things out. And suddenly we thought, maybe we have to do it again. And I said, I don't know, let's ask. So I went to Capilla del Monte and I traveled there and went to the mountains for a meeting. And I said, it's been a septennial, and they said, yes, it's the perfect timing to do this, because after you will have to take the energy that we are gonna work here, so you could go to your trip and do what you are supposed to do. So we started to organize everything for this new gathering, and people were really excited because it's been 7 years without doing that, and it was very magical, the first one. So November 2018, it was a perfect meeting of almost 4,000 people. All the people that came were acknowledged of the task. It was not like what we are doing here. It was like specifically to connect time, past, present, and future, during 3 activations and meditations. And in each one of them, one of the Americas had to open the doors. So the grandmothers of these native cultures of the 3 Americas were there to do the opening. And it was very beautiful because they were accompanied by a woman that representing the shamans of that territory, of the Capilla del Monte. So the 4 of them were opening the doors for everyone to do the ceremonies, and I was channeling during each one of the meditations. And they gave me there all the information of what was going to come and all the energy for the next stage of the I Am. So after Capilla del Monte 11/11, I came back here to the States to film with Gaia for new seasons. In these new seasons, I was supposed to talk about my memories in Egypt, in Kem, but I had all these things in my head, like the mission, the connection, everything. And suddenly when I was talking about all this, I was describing how the Syrian people came to this planet, and suddenly I started to wonder why I remember them. And I started to wonder why I am doing this, why I know what is going to happen, why are they telling me what to do and not all the others around me. So I was starting to see everything around me like if I was there, like if I was walking with them in the same halls, and I started to see how they were in front of me, all covered with these veils. And we were not supposed to look to them into their eyes. Suddenly, when I was explaining this on the camera of how everything looked like and how everything was, I remember that we were all like this, bowing in front of them as they were talking. And I looked up and I stared into the eyes of one of them. And it was kind of like the memory. I just knew, I remember that moment, that the reason why I remember now everything is because I saw it in his eyes. So it was like suddenly knowing why I had to prepare myself to do all this. It was because I did a mistake of staring into its eyes while they were talking about the future. Realizing that was like, in somehow blaming myself for everything that I was doing and everything that I have done and everything that I am doing, like not being in a normal life, not being able to do something simple. I started to say I shouldn't have seen this. I was not supposed to look into the eyes. So I broke in that moment, and when I was just explaining about the environment and I realized about this, I just fell down crying in the studio and not knowing what to do. It was a weird thing that happened, and I couldn't come back to me for a while, and until I could process and accept that it was because I saw into their eyes that I am doing all this, that I remember the future. In 2018, I received the message of everything changing, and they said this was because there was a portal, a very important portal that would take 2 years to close and we had to take a benefit from it. That was the portal of time and space. They said, look into the numbers and you will find out which are the dates. So the key was the number 2, time and space, 2 things. So I said 2020, 2020. So February 2nd, 0202 2020. 2222, it's 8. So it's the infinite time. So the portal of time would start that day. And the last day of the portal would be 12, which is space. Which number would give me 12? That would be February 22nd, 2022. So in between the 8 space and 12 time, you will have the great portal, 2020, 2021, from February to February 2022. So in that time, I was supposed to do the whole task. Connect the network, inform everyone what is the I am, and reach every spot in the planet. And they said, and also you have to do it while the entire planet stop and meditate. And everyone must think about the crown of the planet, because the crown of the planet, the North Pole, is changing. So everyone has to have in their mind the crown of the planet. So one of my guides told me, you're not going to do this alone, but you have to remember that you are not part of the circle. You are the center. You have to pick 12 persons that will help you to do the activation around the world. This was late 2019, and I did the list of people. One of them was my husband 12,000 years ago, who is a friend of mine now. He was one of the persons that 12,000 years ago, in front of the Sphinx, that was my first memory, told me, whenever is needed and the moment it arrives, I will be here with you. Doesn't matter which time, doesn't matter our bodies. So I wrote to him and he said, of course I will go. So 12,000 years after, in front of the Sphinx, he was there with me, beginning this. So it's a perfect cycle of 12,000 years of working with someone. So I choose some of the closest friends that I would trust that we could do work with. And I took them all to Egypt for the portal of time. And we all together did this activation with 144 people that came also for us. And we went all to the Great Pyramid and did this activation to open this portal of time and to allow us to do everything that we had to do. And during this activation in February is when they told us that the world will stop